This holiday season, as the world celebrates in so many ways, some families are facing it apart, feeling the weight of loneliness. At a miracle of a community that cares, we are creating a space where everyone, regardless of faith or background, can share in the joy of this wonderful season. Join Santa and leaders from all walks of life for stories, special shout-outs, and heartfelt messages from loved ones near and far. Children are taking the lead with art and fun, helping us bring the gift of books to children everywhere. Children in hospitals, children to families of all faiths, and to fortify traditions of families. This season, let's come together as a global community, one that cares, one that gives, and one that embraces all cultures, part of the miracle. Join us from December 24th to December 26th, and let's make this season unforgettable for everyone. Hey everyone, my name is Zach Clayton. Welcome to Footprints Forward. I do need to, right out front, give everyone a warning. We are going to be talking about domestic violence. Our guest today survived a horrible, horrible incident. And she has created a wonderful program thanks to the recovery that she was forced to go through by this individual. Some of the things that you are going to hear could be triggering. I beg you to please use your very best discretion on whether or not to watch this show. I would like to hope that you would eventually be able to come back and watch this show, and especially if it is still that much of a problem, because if it is, Agape and her team could very possibly be who can help you lift yourself out of the feelings that you're in. We also mentioned another great friend of ours, a wonderful partner of ours, Deb McPhee with Deb McPhee Coaching. I want to make a huge point here. None of this is about ratings. I don't make a dime from these shows. I'm not good enough to make a dime from these shows. I started these shows to make sure that we can find the help that you need. Our hope is that throughout the time that we're recording these shows, somebody's going to stumble across them. Somebody's going to stumble across them. They're going to find them. They're going to find what they need. And when that happens, maybe one of these shows can save their lives. Agape went through hell She went through hell. But folks, she went through hell so she could help you not go through hell. She went through hell to learn the lessons to help you. So please, for the next 40 minutes, please, I understand if it's getting too much, back away. If you need help, reach out. 970-909-0751. We will try to find someone in your area to help you. Call Agape. Call the police. Don't sit and think things are going to be better or they're going to get better. Okay. We do not have, as I don't know what it looks like on the outside world there, but on the inside world, we've got a new program. We got rid of our old streaming program, and thanks to our great friend, Jan. Thank you, Janice. Love you. We are trying a new program, and so far I'm liking it. I think it's kind of neat. I'm still pressing the wrong buttons and can't figure out how in the hell to play a video. I can't find my downloaded intros and outros anywhere, but that has a lot to do with me being a little, okay, that has nothing to do with this program. That's all this funny fat guy. But again, welcome to Footprints Forward. Our mission is to make sure that you understand that no matter how softly you walk, you always leave footprints. There is no such thing as nobody's going to miss me. Nobody's going to care. I didn't do anything. This is a show that I'm going to tell you something. It's a hard show to do sometimes. This was not one of my harder interviews. It sucks to hear her story. It sucks to hear what she had to go through. But it makes you so happy to know that humans can endure this kind of garbage and stand up and pull themselves out of it. Before we get going, to my dear friend Stephanie, my partner in a lot of these shows, I hope you're doing okay. I know that there was some damage to your homestead. To everyone, to the over 6 dozen people who lost their lives in this terrible, terrible storm, to your families, we love you. If there's anything that we can do to try to help send clothing your way, please let us know. We will do what we can do. We're also working on a project where we're going to be collecting clothes for some people who need our help. We're not ready to announce it yet because there's still some logistics that have to be taken care of. But I'm going to be asking for a few things. Non-perishable foods, good clothing, warm clothing, housewares, stuff like this. If you guys have it, we're going to be needing it probably here in a few months. we're going to be taking with everything going correctly, we're going to be taking a load to some very, very important people who sometimes unfortunately get marginalized and forgotten. But so please stay tuned for that. Again, this show, there is a chance of it triggering. If this show triggers, please turn it off and get help. You can find more about what Agape and her team does by visiting their YouTube channel, youtube.com, and just go to Confronting Domestic Violence.
Whether you have experienced domestic violence personally or not, someone you know has. Your circle of family, friends, acquaintances, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience domestic violence at some point in their life. Physical abuse is only one of the many forms of domestic violence. Survivors also report experience of verbal, emotional, spiritual, sexual, financial, electronic, and so much more. Domestic violence does not discriminate. It can leave you traumatized and devastated, mentally, emotionally, financially. You can find yourself homeless, jobless, helpless. The list can go on. There's blankets of insecurities, triggers, doubts, and other residual effects that become hurdles that impact our life as we do our best to move on. Many people associate butterflies with a sense of freedom. We've been taught along the way to focus on the transformation that takes place inside of the cocoon. I invite you to take a moment to conceptualize all the odds the caterpillar was up against and needed to defeat in order to get to a safe place, to build its cocoon and actually experience the transformation. My name is Agape Garcia. I am a mother and survivor of a double attempted homicide. Now, I'm dedicating my life to take yours to the next level by experiencing post-traumatic growth to begin a new chapter in your life. Let's get started on this journey together. Community to make a difference. Nobody should suffer alone. Please scan the QR code.
So that right there is going to show you a little bit about what's coming. Okay. Again, this was not the most difficult video. This was not the most difficult interview I've ever had to do, but it most assuredly wasn't the easiest. It definitely taught me a lot, and I'm hoping and praying that if you need help, this will inspire you and help you find the place to find the help that you need. This is my interview with Agape Garcia at Confronting Domestic Violence, a new community pay it forward mission partner. Please support Confronting Domestic Violence by shopping. Shop, click, and pick. Shop with any of our partners. Click a picture and attach it to the QR code that you're going to see in the corner right about now. Hey everybody, it's Zach Clayton with Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. I want to thank you for bearing with us with all of the changes. You can see a QR code up in the corner that's right now it's covering my lovely guest's face, but that's because it's a very important code for this particular interview. She has started this program and confronting domestic violence, and we're going to be getting into the story a little bit here through this podcast. But she is our guest here today on Footprints Forward. I would like to welcome Agape. How are you doing, Agape?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me here.
You know what? I greatly appreciate you working with me. We were supposed to do this the other day. It just didn't work out. But we will, we'll go with what we've got. So, Agape, you started confronting domestic violence after there's no other way to say this, after a horrific events going on in your life. Can you please take and walk us through what you're comfortable walking us through with there?
Sure, no problem. Thank you for this opportunity. I will start by saying that this organization was born from the ICU unit about 3 years ago. I was in a major car accident, which resulted in a 1% chance of me surviving. And that was the first time in my life that I knew I wasn't fighting for myself. Like I was not fighting on my own behalf. I had to surrender all and everything and just give all that I could to, the Lord, and ask, why did he believe that my life, that I was worth saving? I didn't understand. I didn't know. I was in a situation where I could not even feed myself, let alone, raise an arm or a leg. I was literally just in ICU and unable to move much of anything. I was pretty shattered from head to toe, literally. And I had many prayerful moments in that time of my life. And it finally came to me that I had a story to share. I had a purpose to live and a impact to make with the community of parents and people who are dealing with domestic violence. I survived a double attempted homicide when I was 8 months pregnant, over 1,000 miles away from home. That was close to 20 years ago. And so I had lived under a rock since that moment of fighting for our lives. And when I say lived under a rock, I mean literally never even had MySpace. I was not on social media. I convinced myself that social media was just an advertising platform, and that's the last thing I wanted to do was advertise where I was and what me and my kids looked like, let alone what the heck we were doing. So my entire life from that moment became all about protecting and providing for my children. And so I definitely, over the past 20 years, went through some serious uncharted waters and experienced an abundance of I don't even know what to call them, situations, loopholes, survival mode, extreme independence, self-sabotaging. I mean,
Yeah.
you name it. There's a lot of things that, are post, trauma. And I focus on post-traumatic growth, by the way, since I just mentioned that. PTG. Everybody's familiar with PTSD. Not a lot of people are familiar with PTG. It's post-traumatic growth. A lot of us actually have that within us. Makes us stronger, wiser, as it relates to our experience and doing something about that. So that's pretty much where I am today and how confronting domestic violence came about.
I mentioned when you and I talked last week that I flat out in love with your terminology of the post traumatic growth. I love that because it's not, it, everybody has a right to play victim, to be a victim, not play. And forgive me for saying that, not play, but be a victim. Everybody has that right. But after a while, you've got to get over being a victim. You got to get back onto your life. Agape, you're a mom. You have a life that you had to get back to, and it scared you badly. How how difficult is it now that your daughter is getting out there into the world a little bit? Are you like the mama bear protecting her? Are you kind of like, what is that like for you?
Sure. I actually will answer that, but I wanna respond to something else you
Yeah,
mentioned just a
please.
moment ago, and that was. Are we live or are you pre-recording?
No, we're pre-recording. This goes on here in about an hour.
Okay, so you don't edit.
No, I don't.
I wish you told me that before. I love this. Okay, audience, you're seeing the real deal here.
Hey, look, they've watched me sit there and go, and then after a
Okay,
while, I
okay,
just
okay.
realize that I'm sitting there looking at like the hairs coming out of my nose or
All right,
something.
I'm like,
So
oh my
they
gosh, I'm as
they're
red as a
used to this
tomato
with
right
me.
now. Okay, so I want to talk about the word that you use as it relates to victim, and everybody has the right to be a victim. I don't think everybody has a right to be a victim, but I know what you're saying. I'm just playing off the words. But yes, I have this outlook of, that journey of, when you are a victim, you really don't realize that that's what's happening, right? It's you have to reach a threshold, and everybody has their own threshold that they reach until they realize that they are in a situation where they are being victimized. And that is what really takes that large heaping step in that growth, because once you realize that you are a victim or that you were a victim is when you're actually stepping into that stage of realizing I am no longer a victim. I was being victimized. Okay. And then once you start getting that strength and that confidence, and you are starting to see the bigger picture of things, you might start feeling some emotions of anger or frustration or questioning who you are, or calling yourself names because you couldn't see it or didn't detect it or things of that nature. All those things are very normal. And when you're in that space and you're like getting back to your, self efficiencies, you are then becoming that survivor. So it's like a staged type of transitional growth. You're acknowledging that you were a victim. You're realizing that you're in that stage of when you realize you were victimized, and then you step into that survivor mode. And eventually when you're in that survivor mode, you register that at some point in your journey, and then you become this like warrior. Okay, so so I would like to believe that's kind of where I'm at with the post-traumatic growth journey and that. So when you said, how did that make me feel as mama bear, and how did I get through that situation that, changed my life in a matter of 15 minutes, right? So I will happily go through that with you to really mirror what I just said with those stages. All right. So I was born and raised in Chicago. All right. I was in the not so great neighborhoods most of my life. When you're not in a good neighborhood and you have the opportunity to leave that neighborhood, that's a definition of making it. Okay. So when I traveled 1,000 miles across country to get out of the neighborhood and make it, right? I was working full time. I was in school. I was raising my daughter. I was 7 months pregnant, and I was, very independent. I was dating the gentleman. We had been together for a couple years already. We were planning our future. He was offered the job. He went first. I waited until my daughter was on her spring vacation, and then my semester was over, making sure that everything was done very methodical and responsible and as seamless as possible. So it took about 3 to 4 weeks for my items to arrive once I drove across country. And during that, 3 weeks, I'm settling in, making sure that my daughter is, transitioning well in her new school. I'm acquainting myself with the neighborhood and getting to know, my new doctors and things of that nature. And when my items arrived and I was unpacking, I came across items that belonged to somebody else other than me. And I did not recall my the father of my child at any given time telling me that there was any family or friends at the house. So my heart was beating fast. I was going through extreme anxiety. I had a million things going on in my head because I had just voluntarily left my job, my school, my friends, my family, and everything and everybody that I ever knew around me. And so when my daughter went to bed that evening, I waited until the end of the day to have the conversation. I said, hey, while I was unpacking my stuff, I came across belongings that are not of mine, and I would like to know who they belong to. And I was accused of going through his stuff. And I said, I'm going to repeat myself. I found belongings while I was putting my stuff away. And before I could even finish my repeating myself, I was already on the floor. He was sitting on my stomach, straddling my 8-month belly, and with his left hand around my neck and his right hand closed fist punching me over and over to the head. And I was squirming around, and all I remember is my daughter's voice, Mom, Mom. And I never heard that tone of fear in my child's voice before. And that gave me She-Hulk adrenaline, okay, to fight for my life because I did not want her to come down those stairs and see what was going on. And I slammed my feet on the ground and I thrusted my hips towards the ceiling, and I was able to roll him over me. I have no idea how I popped up in a second. I ran around the couch and she was coming down the last step. I grabbed her little hand and we ran outside the door just like that, barefoot with pajamas. And I'm knocking on the door to my neighbor. Please, please, please. I need to use your phone. I need to call the police. I call the police. The 15, 20 minutes that it took them to get there felt like eternity. I just couldn't believe what happened, what was going on. Everything was just taken away in a matter of 15 minutes. I didn't even know if my baby was okay, if I was going to be okay, if we were going to be okay, if I could even have a baby at this time in my life, now that I'm in this extreme survival mode with my, 8-year-old daughter here. And it was horrific. It was the most devastating thing I could say that ever possibly happened. And I don't have sisters, I don't have brothers, I don't have cousins. I'm an only child, and I'm come from a very dysfunctional family. And so I was truly by myself. And plus my good friends that, I do consider to be, very close at just as family. Even them, I didn't call much of anybody. I didn't tell anybody. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I couldn't go back anyways. I'm high risk. So I can't say, to make a long story short, because there is no such thing under these circumstances. However, I'll say that, I did not realize that when they put the handcuffs on him and he was being taken away, he didn't have to worry about what I was about to be worried about, which was shelter, which was heat, which was electricity, which was food, which was everything that, one requires in order to, live. And so while he was taken away and had all those things in jail, I was stuck. I was stuck trying to figure out what was available for us. And I was in line. I was in line for food stamps. I was in line for any sort of financial aid. I was in line for housing. I was in line for anything and everything because I had nothing. We didn't even share a bank account. I had nothing. So it was a very hard fight and battle uphill. And I can honestly say that if it wasn't for the childhood that I had, which I just shared with you, being an only child in a not so great neighborhood, what you don't learn behind the door and at home, you'll definitely learn on the street. If you do not learn respect in your home, you will learn respect outside your door. Yep. So I'm very clear on, that. So if I didn't have that rough upbringing, that survival type of make it through the wilderness childhood, I probably would not have been able to have the ability to endure and really be built for the fight that was ahead of me as it relates to fighting for my rights, protecting my children, not giving up, and keep calling every single phone number possible. I mean, I probably called over 1,000 numbers, 1-800 numbers before I was able to actually reach somebody to help me. And I navigated so much over the 20 years that since I've experienced that incident. And you can only imagine everything that was planned as a life and a future, was out the window. I didn't even care about school anymore. My career was out the door. It was just, what can pay the bills? How can I provide? How can I stay, under the rock, under the radar, and get back to school and provide for my kids? And with doing that, I was exposed and experienced or I don't want to say experienced, I am experienced now. I was exposed to a lot of different opportunities and things in different realms as it relates to the jobs and the communities. So little did I know where my life was going. It was second by second. I couldn't even do day by day. It was literally like hour by hour. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane to live under those circumstances. And so in complete survival mode and extreme independence, taking on the world and putting everything on your shoulders seems like the right thing to do, especially when you don't trust and when you feel like you can't trust. And that is a part of that ripple effect of, being victimized because you gave so much trust and you gave your life and you gave, your vulnerability, and it was robbed, it was shattered, it was destroyed, and it takes a while to rebuild. And you know I've learned that when you spend your time wondering, why did they do this, why all these why questions, right? Why did they, and why did I, and why didn't we? Those questions is when you're there, that's how you know that you're going through that transition, because you're really trying to make sense of things. And I'm here to tell you that it's almost impossible. It's almost impossible to understand the way that somebody else's brain works, or what their motives are, or why they do what they do. And the less time that you spend wondering why they did what they did, or why they acted, the more time you can spend on forgiving yourself for whatever you're mad at yourself about. Again, you can't control what other people do. You can only control you. And when you move out and you physically are no longer in the environment and you're moving on, everybody seems to come across almost like a blanket of just pure insecurities. You don't want to get to know anybody. You don't want to try to develop a relationship or a friendship, any kind of ship, right? You're just really with your radars going all the time. And it can lead you to a place where you just close off the world and you isolate yourself. And that's a risky place too, because there's you can move a million times, you can travel a bunch of places, you can put yourself in many different environments, but in reality you live in your head.
You can't escape you.
You can't. You live in your head. So if other people and the questions about them are renting space in your head, and they don't belong there, evict them.
Yeah.
Evict them. And if you're dealing with the doubts and the lack of self-confidence within, think about somebody that you would fight for, that you would confront and get in between, that you would protect with your own life, whether it's your children, your best friend, your parent, whoever that person is. That level of energy, that level of what's the right word that I'm looking for, like protection that you would give that person, is the same exact love and protection and fight that you need to give for yourself. I did not know that mirror work was a real thing. And when I was going through that transition, of figuring out what I was going to do, because my baby, my unborn baby, was going to be born in 45 days from the day of the incident. And I had to figure out my entire life in 45 days. I did not know that mirror neurons were a real thing and that mirror work is a real thing. But I just instinctively went to the mirror and yelled at myself and screamed at myself and talked to myself like I would talk to someone I was really, really angry with, because they knew better than what they were trying to convince themselves of. Like when your best friend or your daughter says, that they just want to give up because they got second or third place instead of first. It's
Right.
like the encouragement you have to give is the same encouragement and the same cheerleading and the same advocacy you need to give yourself. Okay. And
There a little bit of the good news that's come out of this. The baby was fine.
yes, the baby was fine.
So
I had a planned C-section. I actually talked the doctors into having the C-section 14 days prior to the actual due date, because I was just so stressed out, and I believed that the baby was better
yeah.
off outside of my emotional, insides.
Right. You started confronting domestic violence. Can you tell me what the sole mission of confronting domestic violence is?
Yeah, the sole mission of Confronting Domestic Violence is to provide real time resources to real time victims. And if they have a safe place to go and not the means to get there, and they have children, then we will help provide those relocation services to get them to their safe location. I don't believe that any parent should have to leave everything behind when moving for safety. That was a huge gap, in my personal life. So I really want to be able to bridge that gap.
Yeah, and I can imagine that's why it was so important to you, because you didn't feel like you had that safe place, and you may not have had that safe place. So, um, what you're since your accident and in the last 3 years, I've looked on your website and you've done some amazing things in 3 years. Okay. I know nonprofits that have been going for a decade or longer that are still trying to, punch through and still trying to, they're doing everything they can do. But you really got a team together and you hit the ground and you guys are running.
From your mouth to his ears, this is why I believe my life was spared. And I got off of, my friend just told me yesterday. She said, and she was next to me. She was almost every other day next to my bed. She came and saw me all the time. And she said, you walked from your deathbed into your purpose. You told me, I watched the whole like spiritual revelation happen in front of me. I saw you praying. I heard you praying. You shared with me, that you just wanted to know why, and now you're just walking in your why. And I said, you could never have convinced me that this would be where we are today, because to your point, I have heard on numerous occasions, you guys are only 3 years in existence from
Yep.
your date of 501c3 status. What? I said, this is proof in the pudding.
Yep. And Agape, one of the things that I love the most, again, and when talking to you was such a revelation to me, because My motorcycle accident led me here. Okay. I was a truck driver. I hated going to work every day. I was in a relationship that I wasn't satisfied with. I began every day with, ugh, I hate my effing life. Every day I began my life like that, to where, you know what, I was thrown into a fence, left in a ditch, and now I I would like to say I'm living a dream, but you know what? I'm starting a dream. I'm starting a dream because I get to do what I enjoy doing, which is meeting beautiful, beautiful, wonderful people like you and using our QR codes to take and support dreams and support programs for people to help people. I love it. So you wanted me to make sure that we brought this up, and this is something in which this I've got somebody that I need to introduce you to. Remind me about that later. But the domestic violence effect in the workplace.
Yes, I have so much experience in going to work as a victim, in also being a manager, human resource generalist, security, consultant. I have been in wore many hats at work, with domestic violence being around me all the time. And it's interesting because for the longest time, domestic violence, spillover happens at work so much, but nobody talks about it because of, for many reasons, right? Like social
Mm-hmm.
stigma, the fear of retaliation, and so many different things. There are employee benefit programs, EAP programs, employee assistance programs that most corporations offer employees that, if they have a gambling problem, an alcohol addiction, porn, fetishes and things of that nature, they have, resources to help them get through that. And they don't, what's typically not there, what most folks don't see, is resources for real-time victims of domestic violence. Okay. And the statistics haven't changed for decades, although COVID has pushed the needle forward, unfortunately. And so, with domestic violence being 1 out of 3 women and 1 out of 4 men, and it does not discriminate against anybody. It doesn't matter what color, how much money, what's your title, what's your domination. It does not matter. Okay? Domestic violence is real, and the statistics prove themselves. So the state of California has recently passed a law. It's a legislative law. It is called SB 553. And California has recognized that domestic violence is basically a pandemic, and that COVID-19, it was a pandemic within a pandemic during COVID-19. And so they have mandated that most California corporations have a workplace violence prevention plan in place. That law was passed September 30th of 2023, but is now in effect and was put into effect July 1st of 2024. Small window for a new bill to be into effect, and the expectation for employers to be compliant. Now, there's a few exceptions. If you're law enforcement, you don't need to comply because they have their own. And same thing with healthcare. If you're in the healthcare industry, so basically if you abide by HIPAA, you don't need to comply with SB 553 because they also have their own plan in place. Now, if you're a small organization and you're not open to the public and you are active and compliant with your annual injury and illness prevention plan, then you can be exempt. But any other organization that does not fall under those 3 simple categories, you need to be compliant.
Uh,
So, so
oh,
I wait, because here's where it gets crazier, right? So, for a police officer with the emergency responders, right? Domestic violence is the riskiest call for them to respond to. So now employers and day-to-day personnel are expected to be first responders because the bill is requiring observation, reporting, preventing, and responding and following up.
So it's basically made everybody a mandatory reporter.
Basically, you got that right.
I don't know why a company that works with other human beings wouldn't want this bill. I don't know why they wouldn't want. Okay, and I say this because here in Colorado, earlier this year, we lost a beautiful soul to domestic violence in the workplace. Um, a woman, I'm gonna be respectful and call her a woman, but she was still a little girl. Was constantly being harassed by this other person, and she did everything she could to get her schedule moved away, but she wanted to. I think she was moving off to college or something. I don't want to get too much into her story because I don't want to misrepresent her. But they ended up getting put on the same schedule, and he ended up killing her
Oh my
here in
God.
Colorado, and it it breaks my heart. I hate reporting that story because it breaks my heart, and I don't see, that manager who, as much as I don't want to put this on the manager, I'm going to put this on the manager, because if he knew that this was a problem, and he or she knew this was a problem, that should have never ever been there. First off, the young man shouldn't have had a job. Okay, because if you're harassing someone, that's not something that just stops because know, no, you know, they're not dogs. They're going to prove a point. So, but that's why I think that I don't see why anybody wouldn't want this.
That's
Um,
right. That's right. And I'm sorry. I just wanted to tell you that I'm also bringing that up because you could see how passionate I am about this
yeah,
topic. Okay.
absolutely.
And here's the thing is that when SB 553 came into play, I had to remove my vision statement off of my website. Why? Because the vision for confronting domestic violence was for corporations to offer real-time resources. I had no idea it was going to be beyond that. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is great, because throughout my journey in this, bouncing from job to job, as I had to relocate for my own personal safety, I have clear understanding of how to read a legislative bill. I have volunteered under Cal legislation for more than a decade under public privacy and safety. I have previously been an appointed mayoral appointee to sit on the Citizens Review Board to work directly with internal affairs, understanding and identifying, police practices, responses, and received hands-on training. I also had a physical security company, so I'm very familiar with, the guard services and how to get senior leadership involvement for company policies and things of that nature. I hold an active BSIS card. I am, still with the InfraGuard. I have just and I'm running this nonprofit. I'm staying active in the community. I know so many different, programs and resources available. So I'm looking at now providing like a full on service. I'm collaborating with multiple nonprofit organizations so that we can act as a community of referrals to help prevent the cycle of return for these people who are being abused and staying in fear or going back because of fear. And then I'm providing this consulting for SB 553 to help corporations be compliant, meet the mandates, help train the right people the right way, and help save lives. The fines are staggering. They start at 12K. They can go all the way up to 160K for like just complete negligence. And any whistleblower can call and have them come a knocking. So, I mean, and then I would love to have Confronting Domestic Violence as a resource for people that are in need. And I'll be that third party, reducing the liability for the corporations and then providing the services for, their people. A full round service.
Well, Agape, the one person that I really want to get you with is a really good friend of mine, and why it's not. Uh, it's because I got to add it to the screen. But this is. Let me. Uh, I don't know what I'm doing yet here, so please forgive me.
It's a new
Yeah,
class.
it's a new program, but you know what? It's working. But Deborah McPhee here, and I will make the introduction to you. She, like yourself, her ex-husband hired a couple gentlemen to end her life, and she was sexually assaulted and basically escaped her captors. And now she tries to help people in the workplace to maintain safe workplaces. So I cannot wait to introduce you to her. I think you two really have a lot to talk about, but you can get a hold of her on our website by going to McPhee Coaching in the search bar, and you can learn more about Deborah McPhee. But this is so very important. I know that I've got to let you go, and that's sad because I've really enjoyed this. But I've got one very, very important question to ask you, and this one is one that unfortunately we know that money is key. We all need money. Everybody needs money. What other things can people provide to you, Agape, that can help confronting domestic violence thrive?
Wow. We are having our very first fundraising event October 27th. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October 27th is when we're having our very first gala. Please check us out on our website, confrontingdomesticviolence.org. If you're interested in supporting in any kind of way, we can use people to help us raise capital, people to help write grant applications, just volunteer, help recruit high schoolers or college students that want to help, like just with social media marketing and things of that nature. We need visibility so we can really develop this community, so we can provide for the other communities that are in need.
And again, folks, QR code right above me. That's how you can take and you yeah, it's up here somewhere. There we go. That's that. Thank God I don't edit anything. Yeah. Uh, but you know, the QR code above my head, my shiny 9 head I got going, it's way past forehead. Um, but that QR code is the best way in the world that you can support this program, in my humble opinion, because all you have to do is shop with any of our partners. When you shop with our partners, you use that, hello, co-host. You simply add the receipt to your purchase, and you either take a picture of it with your camera widget, or you upload the receipt where it's asked for it, and a portion of your purchase goes to supporting Agape and her team to make sure that these families get to a safe place. Okay, listen carefully. If they are left in a dangerous situation, they're in a dangerous situation. If they've got somewhere where we can get them out of there, let's get them, bad words, get them the hell out of there. Do what you can do. Support Agape, support confronting domestic violence. Thank you for your time today. I cannot thank you enough. You're such a beautiful, beautiful person to go through what you went through. Such a heart wrenching story. I am so glad that you went through your journey and you came out stronger. I am, as much as I hate the pain you went through, I appreciate that you came back and you know now what could have helped you and that's what you're doing to help others. And I want to thank you for everything that you've done to help others.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Definitely. Every child deserves to feel safe at home.
That's right. Hey, again, go to confrontingdomesticviolence.org. That's confrontingdomesticviolence.org. Agape, your email, how do people reach out to you?
Sure. Email is a.garcia@confrontingdomesticviolence.org.
All
Be
right.
careful of the
And
spelling.
yep, and we will have that linked to the show information. So thank you. Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It really never ceases to amaze me how people go through these situations and they come out on the other side and they're strong. But there is an unfortunate part to that as well, that other people go through these situations and they never come out of it. Go back to our friend Holly Miller. Holly's built a wonderful life for herself with her family, the love of her family, and all the hard work she does. But her childhood friend who was there and was attacked at the same time she was, her life spun into addiction and unfortunately her untimely loss. I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to even try to act like I would know what I would do. I But the one thing I can tell you is that we have talked to a lot of individuals who have been through some very, very difficult stuff. And I hope and I plead with you, if you've been through a situation and you'd like to get it off your chest and you would like to help others by letting them know, hey, look, our situations may have been a little bit different, but this is what I did. This is how I worked through it. Maybe you can do this and you can pull yourself back up to where you want to be. If that's what you want to do, please follow the link below and let's tell your story. Look, my name is Zach with Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. I want to thank you so very much for joining me this week for Footprints Forward. Please remember, if you're not helping someone, you're hurting everyone. Nobody needs to go it alone when we all come together. We'll have all the intros and outros back next week, but until then, goodbye. This holiday season, as the world celebrates in so many ways, some families are facing it apart, feeling the weight of loneliness. At a miracle of a community that cares, we are creating a space where everyone, regardless of faith or background, can share in the joy of this wonderful season. Join Santa and leaders from all walks of life for stories, special shout-outs, and heartfelt messages from loved ones near and far. Children are taking the lead with art and fun, helping us bring the gift of books to children everywhere. Children in hospitals, children to families of all faiths, and to fortify traditions of families. This season, let's come together as a global community, one that cares, one that gives, and one that embraces all cultures, part of the miracle. Join us from December 24th to December 26th, and let's make this